Whether you're new to Blizzard-style RTS games or just Stormgate in particular, this video is for you. Over the next 10 minutes, I'm going to go over the 3 most important things that you have to keep in mind if you're going to dominate the ladder, and maybe 1 or 2 more advanced concepts as well. So, without further ado, let's talk about Stormgate. Blizzard-style RTS games, like Stormgate, are games of resource management at their core. It's super tempting to want to take your first scout and win the game with it, but a poorly controlled army, twice the size of your well-controlled army, will still probably win 90% of the time. Stormgate has 2 major ones, Luminite and Therium. Luminite is your basic income. It allows you to build most buildings and train your most basic units. That being said, if you want to build things that are higher tech or make your basic units more powerful, you need to mine that second resource, which is Therium. Therium is the gray rock field that shows up outside some of your bases you choose to take, but not all of them. And some of them have 2 Therium fields right next to each other. Unlike Luminite that just sits there, Therium's got some pretty cool quirks. It'll slowly expand to cover an area over time, so the same patch that might have a limited amount in the early game might have a ton by the time you try to mine it in the late game. Therium also enriches over time. If it has totally covered the area it can possibly cover, certain nodes will start to glow green. These green nodes will be mined significantly faster than regular nodes. There are also some maps where Therium vents need to be broken down before you can start to spread, which begs some serious questions about where you prioritize your production, your army, how you want to play your early game. With both resources, your goal in most games should be to generate as much Luminite as possible as quickly as possible, and as much Therium as necessary. As any workers mining Therium, they're not mining Luminite, and if you're not mining Luminite, you're directly slowing down your early unit production, you're directly slowing your economy down. That is most games though. There are certainly some build orders that rely on punishing a player for developing their economy a little bit too fast, and I'll keep this playlist updated with some builds from both types, aggressive and more greedy play, in the coming days. Creep camps. Unlike StarCraft 2 or Age of Empires, Stormgate has creep camps that have significant impact on the pace of the game. These camps respawn every 240 seconds, so you start the map with them, but after you kill them, respawn every 240 seconds or 4 minutes, and give different benefits. Most basic is the resource camp. A level 1 resource camp gives you 40 Luminite, which you can use to accelerate your build, and even more when they respawn. Level 2 camps give you 80 Luminite per clear, for example. As I said though, these are the simple ones. Other camps can give you vision, a healing area that as long as you sit in it, you regen some HP, more move speed, or Therium on top of the Luminite that the basic camps give you. Some maps even have a camp that spawns a catapult that allows you to lay siege to your opponent once you clear it out. Now, I know I just said that developing your economy is the most important thing in Stormgate, but the creep camps are almost as important, as they give you map control and resources that you can use to develop your economy and your production. It then begs the question, do you want to stay safe at home and develop your economy first and an army later, or do you want to develop your army first and then attempt to catch up an economy by taking creep camps and map control and putting pressure on your opponent? Both are extremely valid and will come down to the map you're playing and how you personally want to play the game. What do you think your approach is going to be? 3, micro. Micro is how you control your units and make sure that they are as powerful as possible. I know I just spent significant time talking about how it's production that matters, it's economy that matters. But Stormgate has a much slower time to kill than games like StarCraft, which means that how you control your units can make up for significant portions of your success. If your opponent just attack moves their units into you and you actively control to set up a surround and pull back weakened units, you'll win the fight more often than not. This is especially important for Vanguard players who have their units that get more powerful the more fights they survive through the veterancy program, and units that heal wounded ones as well. When we talk about micro, there are 3 key concepts to keep in mind. Pullback control. The most basic type of micro is pulling your units back from the brink of death. When 2 armies smash into each other, you'll notice that units get low at different times. If you pull back units once they get low and then choose to re-engage, the enemy AI won't target them automatically. Your opponent's going to have to do that, which means you're going to have all these low units that are still doing full damage. Meanwhile, your opponent is losing those units, which means over time, you're going to get significantly more value out of them. 2, concaves. Many of Stormgate's units are rather clunky and have different attack ranges. If you just attack your army into theirs, only a small fraction of your army will actually bring their damage to bear. Instead, you should be looking to set up a situation where you have a large arc of your army set up around your opponent, with ranged units positioned behind melee units and siege units even further behind those ranged units. This means that your melee units are fighting, your ranged units are fighting, your siege units are laying damage on top, depending on the game state, and you're going to bring much more damage to bear than your opponent. And by the way, if you're in a concave, they're in a convex. Their area is a lot smaller, so they're running into those issues where their units are clumping up, where they're not able to bring nearly as much damage to bear. So it works out really on both sides. Number 3. As the game goes later, both Vanguards and Infernals get access to powerful yet fragile units that you will feel the need to deal with. I'm talking Atlases, I'm talking Hellborns, I'm talking about even Exos if they get into a significant number. If you let these fights go front to back, you won't really be able to get on top of these power units, and they'll pummel you from afar. This means you should be looking to set up fights where some of your units are off to the side and ready to dive on top of their expensive units as soon as they get set up, or barring that, send some of your units to try to punch through their front lines to get onto those expensive units, as that is often where the damage is coming from. Now, punching through is something that's going to be a little bit more easier for a Vanguard player to do because their Lancers speed up as they take damage and they're tanky enough to punch through and still keep going. If you're an Inferno player, you really want to set up those Gaunt surrounds, those Exploding Imp surrounds, those Fiend surrounds, and really get on top of the Hellborn or the Atlases or the Vulcans or whatever it is that really is causing the problem. As again, that's where the damage often comes from. Finally, let's talk about multitasking for a second. I know we've been talking about these basic things, economy, creep camps, and micro. Those will get you to pretty high on the ladder. But if you want to get really good, if you want to start really contesting with the best and start to stretch your abilities even more, you need to start using multiple hotkeys and harassing around the map, something that we call multitasking. Both Infernals and Vanguard have powerful options to get significant damage from small amounts of units. Infernals have Gaunt drops. You can go Spriggans, you can run by with Fiends or drop Magmadons if you really want to. And Vanguard players get things like early Hornets or Vulcan drops or Atlas drops or just running units into another base. It really is endless. Setting these up does 2 things though. It gives you the opportunity to heavily damage your opponent's economy, remember number 1, and force them out of position so you can get a better position on the map or take down another base of theirs or do something like that. At the end of the day, anything you can do to force your opponent to react to you is powerful. That means that they're playing your game, not theirs. So that's it. What do you think? What are you most excited for as we get ready to move into Stormgate with Steam Next Fest? Did I miss something? Is there some key component about how you think you should play an RTS that I didn't talk about? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to see more Stormgate content this entire week, 5th through 12th, I got a ton of stuff lined up. So hit the subscribe button, like this video to make sure that you don't miss out on anything. I'll see you next time.